At first, before I edited this video, I kinda was thinking what should I say nice about Ryan and his tanks. And when you guys see his beautiful corals, his awesome system, you're gonna see that I just don't need to say a single word anymore. By the way, Ryan is selling corals, so I'm gonna drop his website description down below. Since this video is gonna be a little bit longer, I decided to split it in two parts, so make sure to subscribe so you can check out my second video. And of course, if you like these type of videos, feel free to like it. With all that out of the way, let's go check out Ryan's corals.
This is a approximately 650 gallon system. There's 3 separate tanks, 1 sump, and a bunch of piping, obviously. This tank here is 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, and then 20 inches deep. Keep it at a pretty cool temperature. My temps range from like 75 to 75.5.
I wanted to ask you why. Because I know there's a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you if it's all the above or you have some specific reason why you do that.
So surface temperatures on average throughout the world are like 77 to 78. A lot of these corals were found off of deep cliffs. To be successful with scollies in particular, you need to have a consistent temperature below 77.
Yeah.
So I like to keep it hottest 77. If my temp goes above 77, then some of my heat generating apparatus start turning off, like my lights and stuff like that. Why do I go lower is because honestly, I believe that most of these corals, except for the SPS, are found at lower temps than that because they're found deeper in the water.
Because when you run lower temp, the pH is going to be a little bit higher. Won't be a big difference, but it will be. I always notice during the summer, always dinos will pop up or cyan, just because of the higher temp. Is that the reason as well, because you keep it lower, or solely because it's collies?
So when we're talking about cyano or dinoflagellates, we're talking about microorganisms or bacteria. They have grown so much that they actually become visible to the human eye when they create that biofilm. Bacteria notoriously like to be in warm and wet temperatures. In microbiology labs, they actually keep incubators at like 83 degrees. Keeping stuff at a lower temp does indeed inhibit bacterial overgrowth. I think that is most likely the cause of that summer cyano, and I've seen that too. And just letting your temperature swing by more than a degree is, in my opinion, a faux pas, if you will, not something that you should be doing. So keeping it under a degree swing throughout the day is ideal. And I have the Coral View Hydros running this system, and it will turn on this window AC. The whole house has got central, but then I also have a window AC, which is the right power.
For this room?
Yes, just for this room, which blows right at the tank.
Right.
Then also I have a fan up here, will blow down air. I have it off right now so we can just kind of keep...
Is this running constantly?
This is running constantly. It's off right now because it's kind of loud, and it ripples the water too. But this fan does really help increase evaporation rates, which allows me to dose more kalkwasser too.
Okay, I'm gonna go over that afterwards. Aquarium Recipe was out there since the 90s. And lots of things has been changed, lots of things you've changed. You've changed lighting. I know you had rebreathers.
Yes.
And then you had Neptune Apex, now you have hydros. You have done lots of things and changed lots of equipment throughout the years.
Yeah.
But what I've noticed, your corals look as good like 5-6 years ago. It doesn't matter if you change stuff or not. Everything. So I want to talk about your specific recipe and talk about something that you haven't changed for years and just something that worked for you.
I think high nutrients is probably the one consistent thing that I've maintained over the years. Okay. That's got to be the only thing that I've maintained is a high nutrient system. I've always had high nutrients.
Okay.
I'm a big believer in the Redfield ratio and maintaining that top heavy nitrate to phosphate ratio of about 100 to 1.
Okay.
My nitrates right now are about 50 and my phosphates about 0.5 0.3 to 0.5.
Okay.
I just started running GFO because there was high vanadium on my last ICP test, and Andre said that
GFO would help with that?
Yeah, Roaphos in particular.
Andre is the guy from Reef Moonshiners.
Yeah, he's the guy from Reef Moonshiners. After I had such a good experience with starting to dose his elements, you know, I pretty much just took whatever he has to say about chemistry in particular for, you know, for his words.
Since I know that Reef Moonshiners are dosing their manganese, are you dosing that?
I dose manganese,
Have you noticed any difference with Ghanies as far as manganese?
I don't know, a lot of people talk about that online
I've
as
heard
it
that
being...
a long time ago, but it doesn't even matter now.
I don't know. I think that if you're having problems with Ghanies, that it's mostly a bacterial issue.
Okay.
And so we can talk about my new technique for curing Ghanies that are sick. Is something called oxalinic acid. Oxalinic acid is an antibiotic that they use in koi ponds. I read a thread, and apparently it was good and beneficial for elegants, and that has most certainly been my experience. Is like my elegants were sick, I couldn't keep them, you know, so robust, you know, and I feel like a lot of people have problems with elegants. So I started to fragment my elegants, and I started to have problems with them.
People online YouTube are talking about oxalinic acid right now, but they're talking about like curing bacterial infections or acroporas.
Well, yes.
Corals as well?
Yeah, I think it was mentioned on Reef Bums, like Meckley and Paletta. Meckley seems to be really pushing the hobby forward a lot in a lot of regards, although he is still hooked on metal halides, which is totally fine. I think that, honestly, metal halides are the best light to run. They're too hot. For me, I can't run them just because of that, so it's not even an option for me. So in regards to the oxalinic acid, you know, first question I know people are going to ask is what's the dose and what's the duration. So what I usually do is I have my tablespoon here, okay? I'll do a half tablespoon in about, I'd say about 7 gallons of water. So whatever that ratio is, in my opinion, if you overdose on antibiotic, it's not really going to cause any issues because this is mostly targeting pathogenic bacteria anyways. So I found this one in particular. It's not a human antibiotic, it's only for fish. It's easier to get than Cipro, and it's cheaper because this is 100 grams, degrades very easily. And a lot of pond companies sell it. So I feel safer using this one as opposed to Cipro. Even though Cipro and OA are very similar in regards to their spectrum of antibiotic focus and like what types of bacteria they kill, I used to dip my elegants in Cipro and nothing would happen. It was just terrible. Like I would just lose them. And now that I started using this, they're doing better. I don't even have to dip them anymore. They're still waking up right now.
Was it Kung Fu Claws? What was
the KFC dip,
Okay, I know you used to use something like that, similar, but it's been a while. Have you changed that or used
so with my new process, I do this. I do a little bit of iodine in the 7 gallons. I do about 5 full dropperfuls of that into the 7 gallons. I do, I'll still throw a pill of Cipro in there, and I pretty much just cut out the erythromycin, aka the ChemiClean. I think that stuff is honestly useless in regards to what bacteria we're really trying to focus on.
Talk about what just runs this tank. What you cannot, let's say, live with that. Cockster over there, what are you doing as far as that goes? What are you doing as far as, I know you have CO2 scrubbers?
Yeah, I don't run UV anymore. I stopped running UV. That's just off constantly. It's there as needed, and I haven't needed to use it. I think that it's bad in regards to if we're talking about some of the new discussions people are having about aquabiome. That I think owner's name is Eli, has done some really awesome research, having the UV on and doing DNA analysis of the bacterial colonies which are present in UV run tanks and non-UV run tanks, and that was enough for me to turn it off at least to see how things did. And you know, I already run carbon, so it doesn't really matter for me in regards to water clarity.
Have you noticed anything as far as your LPS losing heads after you turn it off?
No, actually, I found that they did better with it.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is really good for mushrooms too. I've never found anything that works for mushrooms, and historically, I have been not able to ever grow mushrooms. I don't know what it is, but I've lost about 20 of those Paletti jawbreakers.
Right.
And it's so frustrating. You know, after this did so well with the elegance and the goniapora, I was just like, throw a mushroom in there and see what happens. And so I did, and that seemed to, it definitely cured them. I don't need to dip them anymore. They're doing fine. They're growing, so that's been good too.
I do find with every single tank, there's always reefers that cannot just keep certain types of corals.
Yeah, it's weird.
They're just, yes.
I don't know what it is. I've met other people like me that are not able to keep different mushrooms and stuff like that. But ever since discovering this stuff, I've not lost anything. Initially, when I was using this stuff a lot, I was dipping stuff like too much. I didn't want to anymore, so I just ended up throwing it in the tank and seeing how that did.
Right.
I did a tablespoon, a full tablespoon into some water, and I mixed it up and I just poured it in. Makes the water really cloudy. I was really scared after like 20 minutes of doing it. I thought I maybe had killed everything, but the next day everything looked great, and I ended up doing it consecutively for 3 or 4 days, and then everything, you know, tolerated it well. So
awesome.
Keeping it in my back pocket in the event of an emergency. So my equipment, the heart of the whole operation is this controller back there, the Coral View Hydros. It does everything for me. I really don't touch much of anything in here on a regular basis. I'm so busy with work that I really, unfortunately, don't have a ton of time to be in here. So the Coral View Hydros really streamlines everything for me. It does everything for me besides feeding. The equipment that's most important, you know, I have an Abyss A400 that's running the tank's flow from the sump to all these other tanks. And then, you know, I had the Alcatronic alkalinity monitoring system, which is hooked up into the Hydros, which I think is a pretty good device, but honestly, I'm excited to get the IV once that comes out from Hydros.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be swapping that out. Then for skimmer, I have the Quantum Nios 300. The UV is off.
Is on. You have refugium on the back?
I have a refugium, but the refugium is a reverse light cycle.
Okay.
So
how long you run it?
The refugium runs for 12 hours from midnight to noon.
But that's not, what kind of light bulb is that?
It's just a Home Depot LED.
Okay, got it.
Grow LED from Home Depot.
And what are you doing as far as your pH goes? So you said refugium runs 12 hours. Cock stir, do you run there just in the evening or throughout the whole day? What are you using to dose?
Just a Tom's Aqua Lifter, an OG Tom's Aqua Lifter. Yeah, I am. Spliced in with a float switch, just like how Mr. Saltwater Tank taught me how to make an ATO.
Okay, got it. So Ryan, I do have a question. I know you've been using CO2 scrubbers 5-6 years ago. And you had double chambers going. Because you had issues. You're like, you have to run with 2 chambers.
Yeah.
So tell me what you have going on right now.
So I still run it with the 2 chambers. I call the first chamber like a humidity trap. Right. Because it traps a lot of that moist humidity before it gets up to the big jumbo scrubber.
Right. You have just a sponge in there? Or
yeah, just a sponge. And it traps some of that water before it gets over to the CO2 scrubber, because you obviously don't want a ton of water. You want a little tiny bit of water in the CO2 scrubber to make it more efficient.
Right.
However, more than that, is not good for the media. So
you do have 2 of them here. So what are you doing here?
So one is for, because I still bubble scrub.
In the evening?
Yeah. At nighttime.
That's what you use one? Yeah,
so one of them is for a bubble scrubber that runs from midnight to 8 a.m. So for 8 hours, it injects tiny micro bubbles of.
But it's not the whole tank.
It's the whole. No, it's the whole tank.
It's the whole tank?
It's the whole system actually, because the Abyss takes it, churns it up, and shoots it everywhere.
You do it every night?
I do it every night. Yeah. That is probably the only consistent thing I've been doing for 8 years.
You told me this, as I said, like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I have always used it with a
Okay,
CO2
okay,
scrubber.
okay.
Yeah, because my goal has always been to just be injecting pure oxygen into the water column.
All right.